Hello, I'm Rick Stivers with YoungMartin'sReels, and today we're going to be working on this Damn Quick 101 spinning reel that was sent in to me by Dan Selvig, I believe is how you pronounce his name, but I'm not positive of that. And what we're going to be doing is taking a look at it, see if we can get it up and running properly. The problem that Dan had with it, he got this reel in a parts box. And notice the handle over here. Okay, there's nothing there to tighten that handle down with. And it's tightened down all the way as far as it will go. And it can't do anything. Now, my first thought was that handle was made like this, Damn Quick 330, where the handle loosens and tightens by this knob right here. Okay? And that seems to be the case, but after further examination, what I found was if you look, I was able to go online, and there is a part missing from this reel right here. But it doesn't adjust like that one did. This reel handle actually comes off like that. Okay, that being the case, we've got to take a better look at what's going on. All right, so we're going to start off by taking the rotor button off and the handle, get those over out of the way. And since we're missing this piece, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to try to make a piece that will go there. And we're going to take this side cover off. There we go. With the side cover out, we'll be able to remove this pin right here. With the pin removed, we should be able to slide out the axle assembly. And I'm going to be honest with you, I've already been into this reel, so I have an idea what's going on. The reason I know that is because I put this part in backwards. It goes this way. All right. And the reason I knew that is because when I spun it around, the spool was ending up out here like this. All right. So with that properly installed, that spool never should come above about right here. Let's take that crosswind block out. With that off, we should now be able to take off the rotor. Unscrew that. And take off our shim washer. And now we can take off the rotor and this washer right here. With that done, we can flip this back over and slide the pinion gear out. All that done, we can now take out the main gear. But we'll be taking that out, in and out a little bit here in just a minute. What we want to do is we want to find a place where we can get this installed properly to where it's meshing with that pinion gear, and at the same time we're able to tighten the handle down so that the handle doesn't move. One thing I have noticed, see this washer right here, this little shim washer? That shim washer has got to be way up here on the shaft in order to put that pinion gear in. Otherwise, that shim washer catches on the main gear and won't allow it to go in. With it slid up like that, we should be able to take it, slide it up there. Now the pinion gear should go in. There. All right. Now let's see if we can find a combination of washers and such that will go in here and allow this to tighten the handle down and yet not be so tight that it can't go. Now what I have gathered up is some shim washers and a bearing. Now what I'm trying to find is a good combination of these that will make this work. So what I'm going to try to do, I want to see how 3 of these shim washers measure up against 1 regular washer. All right, 3 shim washers together, 35 thousandths. Let's try the 1 washer by itself, 30 thousandths. All right, we're going to try just the 1 shim washer by itself, or the 1 30 thousandths washer. Then I've got another shim washer here, and that one's about 18 thousandths, and it's going to go on top of this bearing. If you look, there's a little bit of play right here at the top of this. Let me zoom this in a little bit. Okay, there's a little bit of play. If we leave a shim washer off, that's going to stick proud right there. See how it sticks up? Well, when it's sticking up, the handle can't tighten down, and the handle's going to continue to wobble like it was doing. So what we want to do is be able to put some pressure on the bearing itself without tightening it down to the point where it can't turn. So we're going to try the 30 thousandths shim washer right here, a bearing, an 18 thousandths shim washer, and we're going to try screwing this back on. Okay, that's not too bad, but it's a little bit too tight. It's tightening down too much. So what we're going to do, we're going to back that off. We're going to take the 30 thousandths shim washer off here, and we're going to put in 2 of the smaller shim washers and see what we get. Try that. Once I get this combination right, I'll tell you exactly what we have, in case somebody else needs to do it in the future. Hopefully nobody else has this problem, but we are missing a part. If we could find the part, we could just install the part. And if in the future we ever stumble across the proper part for it without having to scrap out a reel, then by all means we can take these off. But we're not doing anything that's going to modify the reel itself to where you can't change it back in the event that we do get the right part. One more time, Rick. Okay, the handle's tight. It spins freely. Oh, shoot, all that, and you can't see a thing. Okay, time to show you what's going on. Okay, the handle's now snug. It no longer wobbles. There's no wobble in it at all. Now, if anybody needs a part number for this bearing, I have no idea what it is. It was in a box full of extra parts. So, what do we have? On the top, we have 1 single shim. That is 10 thousandths. On the bottom, we have 1 single shim. That is 18 thousandths. And a bearing. So that's what all this is going to put this together. The thinnest one goes on the bottom. No, sorry, the thinnest one goes on the top. The fat one goes on the bottom. And we're going to take this apart and clean it now, get it up and running, and I'll be right to you. All right, with all of that done, we're ready to start assembly. Now we've got our main gear here, and on the back of this, you'll see these teeth right here. Those are for your anti-reverse ratchet. And what I have found is if you put a fair amount of grease on there, it tends to quiet that anti-reverse clicking down a little bit. So go ahead. Don't be afraid to put a little grease on that one. Put some grease on the anti-reverse pawl. Now, what I do on the shaft right here, I use oil. I don't grease this because it's a rotating device and it tends to act sluggish if you put grease on it. All right, there we go. Now we're going to leave the grease off of the gear for the moment until we can get this all back together. Now, what I am going to do is put just a little bit of grease right here. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to take this shim washer right here and stick it on there, so that when I go to put this pinion gear back in, I can slip it right through, hopefully, and slide it back on, like so. Now that we have that installed, now we can come back and put grease on the main gear teeth and on the pinion gear teeth. Now, a lot of people will put this together mostly dry without putting grease on all these teeth, and they expect that that's going to migrate over as you wind it, and it will. But in my heart, I just can't make myself do that. So go ahead, put your grease on your teeth, move your main gear around to where the, let's zoom this in just a little bit here. I'm trying to. There we go. Going the wrong way. All right. We're going to put this main gear in so that this post right here is as far this way as we can get it. That being the case, we're now going to take this crosswind block and install it properly, which is with the long end to the back, like so. All right. If you put it in this way, what's going to happen is your axle shaft isn't going to go far enough in. Okay, so we're going to slide this around, long end to the rear, like so. The grease that's on there should hold that in place. Now we're going to put this sleeve back on. Oh, hang on, that pinion gear is trying to slide out back there. Put this on, then come back and install your rotor. And then this locking block here has got to match up to the flats on here and go into the lots here. So if you have to rotate it around to get it to do so, do so. Then put your shim washer on. And install your nut. Tighten this down. Don't get overzealous with it. Just snug. That's all it needs. There you go. And it should click over as you come around. Like that. Okay, here's our axle shaft. It's got this pin hole right here. Go ahead and oil it good. Some people will use grease. I do not. Again, this is a sliding surface. Sliding and rotating surfaces, I use oil on. All right, once you've got it in, slide it into where this hole lines up with this hole right here. Like so. Once that's done, you should be able to slide the pin in. Now I'm going to leave the side cover off right now because we're trying to get things going with this side cover. All right, now this got a little bit chewed up from that handle hitting here all those years. So let's see what we can do at this point. I'm going to use a little bit of grease on this and stick that washer on there. I'll set the bearing on. I got another washer now. We're going to sit in place like so. Everything's lined up. I'm sorry you can't see, but I'm trying to keep it all lined up while I screw it in. And it doesn't seem to want to do that from sideways. Trying to get it started in the hole. Once it starts, it should screw right on, like that. Okay. Line everything. A little bit too tight. Just too tight. So, what can we do to loosen it up? Let's try reversing these two washers that I have on here. Or do I have an extra washer already on there? I do. I already have the washer on. That's why I got too tight. I had an extra washer on there. All right, let's try it again. There's the washer. There's the bearing. There's the top shim washer. And it's no fun trying to stack it all together. Not that I don't have enough hands. I don't have enough fingers on each hand. There. Okay, hold on to it. Align the washers so they're not hanging over the sides. Now we have a nice tight reel with a handle that doesn't flop. All right. Seems that we've got that part taken care of, Dan. All right, let's put the cover back on. Been a long day. Spent most of the day out antique shopping and looking at antique fishing reels, and it was amazing what people wanted for absolute garbage. All right, we've got it to that point. Now, this will be the first time I've tried to take one of this style drag washers apart. This is the lockdown in here. Let's see if we can pop this out without having it fly out. There we go. Oh, it came out much easier than I thought it would. All right, now we're ready to take out the drag washers. We're going to keep them in order. I got myself into some trouble. Oh, well, that's interesting. Now, this reel spool is short for this world. The reason being, if you look right across here, this reel is cracked almost completely in two, or the spool. It starts right here, comes across, goes all the way to here, comes across and goes all the way to here. This spool is almost cracked in two, out to here and over to there. So we'll have to see if we can't come up with a new spool for this one. All right, let's see what the parts are. First, let's clean out inside what we got. Not that we're gonna spend that much time on something that's gonna need that much work. We're gonna drop in the first washer. Okay, next in the stack is gonna be this keyed washer. Okay, it's got the little pin right here. Drop that in. Next is going to be, how about that? This is a carbon fiber drag washer. Okay, that goes in. Next, we've got what we call an eared washer. And if you look, here, there are ear holes in there for these little tabs to go into. So we're going to slip one of those, slip it in so that it goes into those holes. Now what that does, that locks that washer to this spool. All right. And we got one more carbon fiber, put that in, and then we have one more eared washer right here. All right, this eared washer, now what that does, that ear locks onto the shaft right here. So one of those is locking to the spool, the other is locking to the shaft. And what happens, as you tighten it down, it locks those two together, and the only place it can move is on those drag washers. All right, let's go ahead and drop this one in and snap the spring back in. And yeah, that spool is really giving way. See, it's cracked. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, see the crack? It's actually separating right here. I can put my fingernail in it. Okay, so this one's only going to be around a short while longer, but it is long enough to let us get this reel back together. And it could actually probably even go fishing a time or two. But there we go. Dan, we've managed to take this reel that had a flopping handle, and let's see if I can tighten it down just a hair more. There we go. Okay, had a flopping handle. We've tightened the handle down now so it no longer flops around, and I'm hoping that you're satisfied with that repair. If you'd like to have the reel back, I can send it back to you. Otherwise, I'll work on finding a spool for it and see if I can't find it a good home. Let's make sure the anti-reverse still works. It does. But did you notice how much quieter it is? That's because of that grease that we put on that anti-reverse. It quieted it down. All right. So there we have it, Dan. The Damn Quick 110 is it's a nice reel. I like this reel. But we are going to have to find a new spool for it. And it would really be nice to be able to find that collar that's supposed to be on there. But the bearing in the washers works fine. It makes a good temporary fix until we can come up with a part. Like I said, parts are not available for this. So that's where things stand, is trying to find parts for old antiquated reels when they're not available. I'm picking back up where I stopped this film yesterday, and we're going to re-accomplish this. After spending a night sleeping on it, I decided I did not like having the bearing here with the two washers. It's too difficult to put together and take apart for somebody in the future. So I've decided I'm going to do some things a little bit different. So what we're going to, also the threads for the shaft only go in about 3 threads, and I don't think that's strong enough to hold this properly. So what I'm going to do, we're going to take this back apart, and we are going to create a new modification. All right, I'm back, and I haven't created that part yet. I'm looking at this, spending a little more time on it, and what I'm seeing here is that is sticking out directly on the end, and there's actually area without hitting the surface. So from what I can see on this, I can almost put a thick flat washer on here that's a small enough diameter or large enough diameter for the shaft to fit through, this guy, for that to fit through, and yet small enough to still ride right there. And if I can do all of that in one piece, then that will take care of it. And it only needs to be, when you screw this back in, all right, for that to fit properly, I'll only need about a 15,000, maybe 20 thousandths washer is all that needs. So if I can come up with a stainless steel washer to fit that, of course, attractive wise, it should shoulder down somewhat, but I don't have I don't have a metal lathe, so I don't have the capability of making up that difference there. But I do have the part that can take this part up here. So let's see if I can find a washer that fits that properly and see if that doesn't do a better job of it. Okay, I found this little washer in the parts pile, and the center of it doesn't match, but I think I can drill it out. That's what I'm hoping for. So let's see what I can do. That's drilled out. It's got a few burrs on it, so we're going to see how that's going to work. Okay, in the end, I used a 3/16 drill bit, and I ended up having to slightly enlarge the hole beyond that, because it was, apparently this is metric, which makes sense since it's a German reel. Now that fits right on there. And I believe that with just that washer added, we can come back, screw this back in. And remember, this is reverse threaded. Okay. Just tighten it down. There we go. No floppy. Nothing but a washer on there. Okay, let's go ahead and blow this up so you can see it well. Okay, I didn't do anything there except add this washer. There we go. And that tightened it up. It stages it out. I wish I had the correct one that goes on there, because I'm pretty sure it would have a slight shoulder that folds down around this that would hide this. But it functions perfectly. It's not something that's very difficult in the event that somebody has to take it apart and put it back together, like the bearing that we had. Plus, we get full engagement of all the threads inside. So that's going to make this much stronger. All right, the next thing I'm going to have to deal with is this spool. Now, I have been told, let's back out. I have been told that spools cannot be glued back together. Well, I find that difficult to believe. I know that my dad was a firm believer in epoxy. He could use epoxy for just about everything in the world. And I'm going to see if I can epoxy this spool back together and rubber band it several times to get it to hold. And in the meantime, though, all the internals of this will need to come out. I think what I'm going to do is we're going to break it the rest of the way apart. And as long as it comes apart cleanly in two parts, I think I will be able to realistically epoxy it back together. All right. If it shatters, though, and breaks into multiple parts, then I'm going to have difficulty with it. So I can get it apart and get it opened up that far. And I don't want to put anything in the gap to force it. I don't think there's any reinforcement in this anywhere, since I can see daylight all the way through this side. Okay. All right. Anything that I put inside there can disfigure the inside, and I don't want to do that because I'm going to need it to stay solid. Now, the center core, I might be able to use something there because that's not a glue joint inside there. So let's see what I can do there. Okay, we've made a little progress. All All right, let's go to the other side and try it again. All right, that broke it the rest of the way. Okay, and you can see the brand new brakes are the white looking ones. So you can see that aside from right there, and right there, this spool was already broken in half. It was only holding by those 3 points right there. Okay, so what we're going to want to do is go back and epoxy this together with a good 2-part epoxy. And then we're going to rubber band it over and over and over again to hold it nice and tight until the epoxy cures well. I'm going to give it a day. And we'll wipe off all the excess so that everything fits properly inside where it's supposed to go. And hopefully we'll have a solid spool back on this reel again. It's been a while since last you were here. And in that amount of time, I think when you left, this spool was in 2 pieces. And it is now back to 1 piece. And what I have done, I separated the 2 halves of it, split it apart, scrubbed and cleaned it real good so that there was no oil or grease or anything in the joints. And then I epoxied it back together. And then carefully cleaned all of the lines where it was all joined together. And smoothed the entire spool so that there's no place for the line to catch. And it seems to work just fine now. And we're going to put it back together with what we have here. And hopefully we're going to be calling this reel complete. All right. Clicker works good. We're going to put a little bit of oil on the clicker just to help it along. And for anyone wondering how it works, this little click pointer right here is spring loaded with this spring. And that is going to ride on this cog right here. All right, as it rides, it clicks along. Now normally this doesn't spin. This doesn't do anything as it sits still. But once the drag washers are all installed and set in here, and the line is set, the line will come through and it will end up in the bail over here. As it comes out of the bail, if the drag is set loose enough, as enough tension is applied to the line here, it pulls on the line, which will cause that spool to backtrack. And as it does, you'll hear the clicker letting you know my line is going out, even though the bail is closed. All right, so that's quickly how that's covered. Let's go ahead and reassemble the drag. Remember, as we said before, this is your keyed washer. It's got the little key here, which locks up with the line on the spool right here. Sorry, on the axle shaft. It lines up in that line, and if you look, it slides on just like that. Okay, when it's locked on there, it cannot turn. Now, well, if I get it to come back off. All right, that's locked in place due to that pin. Then we have a drag washer that goes on. The next one would be that eared washer, this one. And that one will sit on here and spin all day long. But it locks into the spool right there. With it locked into the spool, it can't turn. So with this one locked here, that one locked there, the only place that anything can turn is on the friction of these drag washers. All right. So let's go ahead and put it together. And don't forget that there is a hard washer down here on the bottom that rides on the bottom of the spool. Okay, let's put it together. Keyed washer, drag washer, eared washer, drag washer, keyed washer, tension washer. With all that in place, Now before, when this would snap in, it would separate the spool and open it up. We're hoping it's not going to do that now. This will be the first time it's been together since it was glued. And I'm hoping that I've waited long enough for the glue to settle. And I did not. It just broke again. I was hoping that I had waited long enough. 2.5 hours apparently was not long enough, and that's not going to hold, folks. So, until I can find another spool, we're retiring this reel. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you dislike it, by all means, let me know why and hit the dislike button. If you would like to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button. For now, that's Rick Stivers with Young Martin's Reels, signing out.